Alright guys, welcome back to some more of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. And speaking of Resolve, it seems like we're nearing the end of this very trial, and hopefully we get to see the verdict that Ray Mambaami so deserves. So I hope you all continue to enjoy watching. Let's get to it. Alright everyone, we are back. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. Yes, I agree, and in order to do that, I must try to glean more information. Alright, here we go. Stab the English woman. Why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? Discussing... Okay.
Hold it!
The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one who stole it. Wow. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson. That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. That's true. I pestered Professor Mikotoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. As I left, I was searched from top to tail. Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we've been developing, you see. And since Saseki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look for my own enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that. To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it would just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns? She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually. Ah, yes. Many-memo-san. One small question, if you don't mind. I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy? Clearly, you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then... It was you who wrote this article about what you'd heard. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes, look at this, the entire article. It's almost what I said to Miss Brett word for word. Well, Many-memo-san. As a journo, and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of Many-memo-ism. Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. Okay, we updated. Got you. So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up! My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say and I wanted to go on record. Very well, you may amend your formal testimony. The point is, if he poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to go and stab the person as well. let's see about that with the new... the updated poison article.
Objection!
Well, I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you've overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told is that it was a terrible toxin. And there's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Memo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it. Ugh. Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Memo-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could have come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs of death. The extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison. Which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Ugh. Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Membami-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you, right in Memo? Yeah! It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day, and it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that that was a terrible mistake, because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened to him from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts. But you had already given the victim the poison at that point, it was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen.
Objection!
But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes onsets of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of a new secret poison use, no one would ever have suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use. Which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back. Order! 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 The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Well, there are a number of... yes, I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope?! Ah, you pathetic, useless, fallen samurai. Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning growth is on its... I don't need counter-argument. What? What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say? Gave it to the victim, you say? Stabbed her, you say? Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my views on facts. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I mean, what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here, in my mini memos. Every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Shoyu News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. Even if the thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See? I, write in mini memo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News, couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory. Yeah! Actually, I know how you could have done it. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? My point is this: there is one way that you, Mini Memo-san, could have stolen that poison that day. I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison the day in question? It's the pen. I brought it up before in the previous video. Was it the previous video? I'm pretty sure it was. Open that bad boy up. Alright, and then we gotta whirl it up. Oh no, we don't even have to whirl it up. Open it up again. There you go. Right here. Yep, skip that, we know. Can I present that though? Okay. So now I should be able to present it now.
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. Ugh! A fountain pen? How can that possibly... These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. Bah! I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Stuck up! A subcon, a sumptuous ink, and one work is awash with words in the blink of an eye. That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? And just as it's possible to suck up ink into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it to the nib again, of course. My word! Can this really be? Well, Mini Memo-san. When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up to the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Ah!
Objection!
More absurdity! This never happened. True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places? No, I'm a little ashamed to say. That for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say. I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Mini Memo-san. So, the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped? Are you suggesting... The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of this conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself, if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass. Witness, what do you have to say in your defense? So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Ah! Got so serious, man. You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison in the day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense could prove that he did with evidence. Ha! No such evidence could possibly exist.
Objection!
Many Memo-san, this is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Very well then, I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness pen that was used to steal the poison. A special indicator solution of the Newport, yep, it's this one.
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle? Up. This bottle contains the unique chemical region that can identify the poison in question. Ah! Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method. Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical region, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. A region? What? One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Many Memo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. This isn't my fault! The Empire drove me to this, trying to hold its head high as a civilized nation. I took up arms in the front of the mighty pen. I fought tirelessly, all in the name of justice and righteousness. Susato, with me! I'm there! Uh-oh. Holy cow. Did I do it right? That was the Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a Ryotaro takedown. Oh, that was nice. The instant the first drop of the region touched the near of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you wait for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Many Memo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and to expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead? I went into that hut intending to quiz her on her situation, that's all, as a reporter. A known killer enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face. Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really? You must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What? What did you call me? This country with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. What a terrible tale. In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journal spirit getting all fired up. I'd like to ask you something. Yes, you often talk about justice. But surely, as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver that justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After the trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up. That's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean? I will remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national. Consular jurisdiction should never have come into it. And yet, that puffed up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're gonna crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Many Memo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose. It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Oh. Yes. Sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience at the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Naruhodo-san, Ryunosuke, you mean. The way he handled the trial 9 months ago and the way you handled this one. It gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land. That's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries. Thank you. So, Prosecutor Aochi, do you have any final thoughts? Prosecutor Aochi! I, Taketsuchi Aochi clan, of the Aochi clan, have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Rather than living on in shame. He's gonna cut his hope. I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path of Ochism. Ochism? One hopes that the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness. Sprig of my top knot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Taketsuji. It's hard, man, I know. Your hope will never be forgotten, Taketsuji. Now, in regard to the defendant, Rei Membami-san. Yes, Your Excellency? I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Boom, baby. We did it. Court is adjourned. August 238, Supreme Court of Judicature, the defendants, Antechamber 3. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? Susato! Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Rei, and Father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm gonna cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Rei. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal superhumanity nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... what? I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. I'll, think about it, Rei. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of the horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together? I hope you're not looking at me, Rei. Oh my goodness. No, of course not. Of course not. Ah, there it is at last. Rei's lovely smile. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you, defense attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now. So, I'll never see him again? What a terrible shame. What? They're all shocked. What is happening? Soseki-san and Inspector Hosonaga, I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me, Susato Mikotoba. I don't... So dashing, so divine. No! Doubly dashing, yes! And devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Mr. Sato Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san's Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly, astounding, ace, attorney. Poor Saseki-san, so confused. Alright guys, I'm gonna have to end the video here for today. We finally did it. We helped Ray out, and we're gonna continue on in the next one. Thank you all for watching.